Do you want to feel happier? Do you want to feel more radiant and more alive? To go beyond alive and to feel truly like you are thriving? That's what I'm here for. Helping you find that best you that you know is in there. It is. And you can start accessing that you today. It's possible. If you're ready for a shortcut to just that, let's work together. Reach out and let's work one-on-one to transform you and your life into happy, into thriving. Reach out to me and book a quick call. It's in the show notes, and let's get you there. Are you really committed and ready? Let's do it. I'm the happiest I've ever been thanks to all the practices I've made a part of my life. You can be too. It's here for you. You can also access my course, The Youthfulness Hack, which is all about feeling good and getting radiant and all the things I do concentrated in one spot. Go there today and use code AMY15 for 15% off right now, only for listeners of this show. And if you are ready to truly have accountability and live happy, book a call with me today. The world needs your best. Commit and show up. Let's do this. Welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and I'm completely thrilled that you are here today and our guest too. So welcome to the show. What do I want to tell you up top? My courses are out. I'm super excited about that, you guys. So there's a free one if you want to just test it out called The Ageless Mindset. Look younger, feel happier in less than an hour. And it delivers, I promise. I can't wait for you to try it and hear what you think. And what else? I just hope you're doing well. And thank you for showing up for yourself, because every time you show up to these, as I always say, we are doing something for ourselves to open up our minds, to lift our spirits, to just grow and expand that much more. And that is where the magic happens. And speaking of magic, we have an amazing total magic. Can I call you a babe? Can I call you a babe?
Babe-a-licious.
You are babe-a-licious. We have a total babe with us today, Alyson Charles. Alyson is a rock-star shaman, which means she is of earth and heaven. I didn't understand that title until I read her fabulous book, Animal Power. And I wouldn't say I read the whole thing, but I have been working my way through it. And
it's a big book.
It is, you know what? And it's just inviting to go through. But I did read the entire intro and learned a lot about you. And you are also the host of Ceremony Circle podcast.
Got it.
Yeah, great title, by the way.
Thank you. It downloaded in. I knew it was a winner. The domain, what are the chances that ceremonycircle.com was available?
They're not.
It was. I have
meant to be.
Yes.
Totally meant to be. That's awesome. Well, good. Well, hold on. I just had a panic attack that I wasn't recording. So
oh, yeah.
Make sure.
I know that feeling, and thank you for checking, because I have gotten to the end of shows,
oh my God.
And the button
worst?
was not pressed. So,
oh my God, did you have a heart attack?
Yes.
Was it not pressed on you or?
It was on the host's end, yeah. And it was a great show, and it was a long one, and we were both stunned.
What'd you do?
There was only a portion of it. I can't remember what happened. And I guess he just put it out. It was not good.
Oh man. I mean, but you know what? It happens.
It does.
And that's what we do. We roll
and you
with
just have
life.
to trust. Yeah.
You really do. I mean, like when you don't have a full team behind you, you know, but even so, sometimes it even happens with a full team.
It does.
Justin was recording one and he and the guest were talking about their dads. And afterward, Justin was very open and candid. And afterward, he was like, I don't know if I should have said all that. And later they emailed us and they were like, hey, we lost a whole portion of the podcast. And it was that part where he was talking about his dad.
There you go.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
The energy that we put out too. Who knows? Maybe that wasn't supposed to go out. You know?
I really, truly, I live my life this way, but especially before each podcast interview, whether I'm hosting or the guest, I always completely surrender it, and I ask for whatever medicine, message, or guidance that needs to flow through me to serve my highest, greatest good and the highest, greatest earthly good of all to go out. And so from there, it's just hands up. I'm there for the ride. And if something doesn't make the cut, then it's like that was not supposed to be put out.
I know. And it's tough to surrender sometimes when technical stuff is in the mix, but I do the same thing. Like
I was recording this course, right? And the first one that I did a podcast about it. I lost everything that I recorded. Like my phone lost its mind, whatever. But I was like, you know what? I am supposed to see if I'm really walking the walk of everything that I talk about. And I'm supposed to redo this. Like, you just have to.
I had the same thing with the course too. It still honestly breaks my heart sometimes when I think about it because,
Shit.
Here's
your surrender practice. Here we go.
Literally poured every ounce of my heart and soul. And I was, truly in my mastery when I was filming this course because, we didn't know that we both come from radio backgrounds, but so former radio host, television host. And so those abilities coupled with me having a course guiding 9 different types of shamanic journeys. I did it all live. There was no script, like everything for 2 days from morning till evening, nonstop
I don't like
filming.
where this story's going.
Well, I did get out and it did get published. But the curveball was I figured this would be a course that would be out potentially my whole life.
Yeah.
Because these shamanic journeys, they're all different for different
Evergreen,
purposes. Yes.
serving people.
Yeah. And I got the complete clear guidance. It's too long of a story and not worth getting into the details. But one day I received unfathomable, complete clear guidance that I needed to stop the course and to just have it be done. And I still, on my computer, when I come across like a still image from the set or, anything regarding that, I still am like, dagger to the heart. But I just had to trust. I'm like, there was, for whatever reason, it served its purpose and it needed to be done way earlier than I anticipated. So,
did you have doubt? Were you like, no, it still needs to stay up? Did you have like a little conversation in your head?
A tiny bit, but the things that were occurring, it was so loud and clear. And I've been living my life by the directives of Spirit and Great Mother Earth and my soul in such a deep, initiatory, intense way for such a long time that I get when it's supposed to be moving or done and all the things, and I had to have it be done.
How does everybody get to that point?
Well,
please tell me, because sometimes I just feel like I'm really diving into trust. I'm diving into intuition. I'm really trying to listen. And then sometimes you just are like, what should I be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? I struggle with that sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that resonates with a lot of people. So what's the practice that, we can really, really rely on?
I'm going to tune in and see which specific practice. But the other interesting thing that bubbled up when you were just sharing that, and I know you know this, but maybe it just needs to be reiterated, but there's many times in life where we're not supposed to have the clarity and we're not supposed to know what is exactly brewing. And I'm sitting in that exact space right now myself. It's been a number of weeks of being in potentially the most intriguing void of my life. And there are such significant, deep aspects of myself that I'll feel sometimes at night as I'm drifting off to sleep. I'll literally feel them like dislodging from my being and system and dissolving away into the ethers, and I'll feel it shift out. And I'm like, that felt like a huge part of me. What part of me just died off, And
that's so interesting. I kind of had that happen like in the last 24 hours. And I had a moment where I was just like sitting and in a space, and I thought, I think I just had a shift. Mm-hmm. So you think when we have those, we're really having them? I was like, no, maybe I'm just telling myself that. My mind gets in the way.
And that's the other part. So part one was sometimes we're in these voids and they're purposeful, and we're meant to learn how to sit and trust in those spaces of complete nothingness, unknownness, darkness. And then there's this piece B was, how do we navigate when we feel something really significant on a soul level, but then the mind pops in, mm-hmm. And it was
like, you just want a shift. That's what it is. You just want to have a shift. And I was like, Do I?
But
And then I
when-
wasn't even sure because I was like, I don't know that I wanted to. It
But
just
when
popped in
you
my head.
really tune into the deepest aspect of you, you always know. And when I ask you, do you really feel like something shifted in you?
Yes.
Then just don't get into the mind chatter at that point, because that's definitely part of the training. But let me tune in and see if there's a really specific, tangible practice or ritual that wants to
Okay.
come in to share around this. So it's two parts. And I want to preface by saying I have found in my many lifetimes being a medicine woman, mystic, shaman, and many years doing it this lifetime, that it's the simplest of practices that are the most powerful often. And the one that came in is quite simple, and it involves the surrender piece we already started the top of the show with, which that was one of the teachings in the course that is no longer alive. I had a whole surrender statement, and you can, of course, create your own. And oftentimes this is a huge moment for people when they begin to entertain the idea of truly speaking out loud their readiness to surrender to whoever it is you speak to. For me, it's Great Spirit, Great Mother Earth, and the divine wisdom, love, light, and power that is me and lives within me, my soul. So it's those three places. But maybe for someone listening, it's Source and Mama Gaia, or it's just the universe. But tuning into who feels most aligned that you are surrendering yourself to. And from there, having a really intentional moment of consciously speaking that intention. And it can be something as simple as Great Spirit, Great Mother Earth, my beautiful soul, I'm ready to finally get out of my own way. I'm ready to finally be shown the way that is of most divine, it is of highest and greatest good for my present moment and all moments across all time and space. And I'm ready to receive your messages and medicine and guidance. And I'm ready to be consciously aware of those messages and enact them in my earthly life. I mean, that one was a little bit more complex, and it doesn't need to be that way, but it's essentially letting the unseen realms and letting all the benevolent support and the divine energetics know that you've arrived to this place where you're ready to not only be operating from your ego and your mind, and you're ready to open up into this greater support system and field. And the last thing I'll say about that piece is, most people feel something really big conjuring, even when they just think about the idea of getting to that place and saying that, because it's just like, oh God, it can be very confronting and bring up fears or the monkey mind. Like, do I really want to do that?
Well, sometimes things become more real when you say them out loud, There's that challenge around it.
Yeah, yeah. And then the last piece with the practice is after you, speak your readiness to get into the surrendered energetics and way of life is, embodiment is obviously so important. One thing that I feel really proud of and good about myself and the way I've chosen to walk the path is I'm very, very grounded and I'm very anchored. And while I am so connected to the cosmos, I'm not just spending my time, swirling around up there. I'm a very embodied healer. And so also asking your body, tuning in and taking a moment where you close your eyes and asking your body, where does my highest truth reside? Where does my strongest divine truth live in my body? And after you ask your body those questions, just sitting in silence and seeing where your energy is pulled. For me, I feel it in my heart and my lower belly. But really getting clear, and that will help you in those moments of calibration and navigation where you might be questioning, like, did that really happen? You know, it's like go to your body and see if the truth expresses from the place in your body. So surrender and find place of truth in your body. So that feels like the practice people can do.
Were you ever not doing this kind of work? I mean, were you always like tuned in?
To certain capacities. The short version of that story is I'm very clear when I incarnated and when I was a very young girl, all the gifts were open, but I reached a choice point at a very young age in life.
Like how old?
I think it was probably around 4 to 5, where it was very clear to me that I needed to choose. Excuse me, I'm really clearing some stuff as I'm talking about this. And like
That's because we just did all that.
Belching it out.
I did too,
Oh, really?
actually. And I was like, part of where mine resides is my throat. And I like, right when you said that, I drank some water, but I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just our voice coming through.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. So at 4 or 5, I really needed to make a decision as to whether or not I wanted to remain in connection to God, Goddess, and keep my spiritual gifts open, or greatly suppress those and keep my relationship with my dad flowing. Because I was very aware that one had to go, one had to greatly suppress. And as a young girl, I think it felt more terrifying to think about, stopping the connection and relationship with my dad. And I should also add, I love my dad and I wouldn't change a thing about my life story. But he was my distance running coach from the time I was 2.5 years old. And that was a whole previous part of my life, this lifetime, that doesn't even feel like it was this lifetime, but I was a national champion athlete and, an athlete for the University of Alabama, and went on to be a Division I college coach and all of these things. But when I was young, he was my coach from 2.5 years old through high school before I went off to college. And essentially, my seer gift is probably my strongest. And I love him very much, but he had some really hard things happen to him as a young boy that I don't think he ever fully knew how to heal or deal with. And when we sit and live with unresolved trauma and wounds in our system, it inevitably ventures out in, just unhealthy behaviors. And so I knew I needed to either shut my seer gift off and kind of close off all that I was tuning into as a young girl with my dad's wounds, or I could keep seeing all that I was seeing, and I didn't really know how to deal with all of that at 4 years old and keep my connection with God. So I chose to suppress my gifts, and I kept them. It's like my soul knew to keep them just barely alive, so the light didn't fully go out. But it wasn't until I got older where I just started voraciously, like all I was studying, all I ever read, even as a young girl, was like metaphysics and the healing power of colors and learning how to read palms and numerology. And when I did my radio job at the hip hop station, even though it was that kind of station, I was bringing in, yes, we had musical guests on all the time, but I was also doing dream analysis for the listeners. And I was bringing psychics into the studio. And so the last little part of this long answer is I was in a previous relationship many years ago that was the instrument for my awakening, and my gifts were trying to come online desperately. And my previous partner, suffered from different addiction issues. And the last thing he wanted was for me to grow in my psychic abilities and grow and let my seer gifts come back online. And so because I could see his discomfort with it once again, I started to shut things down because I was having codependency issues. And that's my resistance to what was trying to come through and reawaken in me is what caused me to need a divine intervention. So the story is, you can see in those different chapters, it's like the gifts were alive to varying degrees.
Yeah. Wow. When you were
Yeah, there's a lot in that answer.
No, I know, but do you remember like making a conscious choice when you were 4 or 5?
When I look back, I can tune into that feeling. I've done so many different shamanic journeys and meditations where I'll bring, I'll call my younger self forward and she'll present at different times, like whether she's 7. One meditation I did, my 7-year-old self came and we came face to face with me. And finally, for the first time, there was just sheer terror in her eyes. And she was actually like my body as a 7-year-old was quivering and shaking in front of me. And that wasn't until I was probably, I don't know, 35, where for the first time, I was able to finally see and acknowledge just the inner state that I had been in as a little girl. And I didn't fully know that until I was 35 and saw that version of me come forward. So it was in those different types of inner practices that I was able to connect more of those younger dots.
Yeah, that's good. Whether you're sober curious or on your sobriety journey like I am, you know there can be challenges along the way. That's why I want to tell you about Everbloom. Everbloom is a new way to get support in alcohol recovery. Everbloom knows that particularly the first 90 days of sobriety can be extra challenging. So they offer everything from a free plan to one-on-one coaching along the way, along with meetings, uplifting emails, which I've been getting and loving, and curated resources. Everbloom provides small online meetings with people matched to you, where you will find conversation and connection, and you can also set and achieve weekly goals with your Everbloom group coach, who's dedicated to guiding you through your sobriety journey. Everbloom creates a safe space for peer support, and we all know that makes such a difference. It's even been found to be clinically effective at improving long-term sobriety outcomes. Community matters. So even if you're just sober curious, you can get connected to others and find support along the way. So whatever phase of your sobriety journey you're in, whether you're struggling, you want to get sober, or you're looking for more connection, sign up today for a free meeting. No pressure, no commitment, just check it out and get the support you need. Everbloom, a new way to get support in alcohol recovery. Sign up today at joineverbloom, that's BLUME.com, or follow the link in the show notes. I'll see you there. I've felt really out of touch with my younger self, over the years, and I don't feel like I remember things as well as I would like. And so that's super interesting.
Yeah, well, same with me. My memory doesn't function like I think a lot of other people's does. I don't retain things. It's like I'll receive whatever transmission or needed medicine around it. And then I'm not able to retell things. And I also, my childhood is very patchy. It's only when I go into those inner states and those spiritual practices that what needs to be known or remembered comes in.
Yeah. Do you ever resist that, or do you?
No. Open? At this point, I'm so my quest and my devotion is to truth, to divine truth at all costs, and that came from living in denial and illusion for so long, and having that divine intervention come in as a result of that. And so, once that veil lifted and the egoic shell got obliterated, and I realized in that process that I had been living in such staunch denial and the hell that it was wreaking in my life and the suffering that it was bringing in, I knew in that moment, it was just like, you know what? It's truth or nothing, and I will find my way. I will figure it out, but I cannot ever go back to denial systems. So whatever it is at this point, I'm just like, bring it. And I trust myself completely that I'll find my way with grace.
Yeah. That probably gives you a lot of compassion toward people that you see that are maybe in that space.
It does, but I'll be really honest, because I just prefer to only be transparent. I don't have the energy or time to be anything but real. Because of knowing what living in denial is like, I do hold empathy and compassion. And I also have very low tolerance for people who don't put in the work and aren't willing to take responsibility. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. And I'm very aware of that piece in me. And I was just chatting with a friend. She came over last weekend, and I was just asking her, I said, this has been going on for years, but I'm like, I'm really wanting to investigate in this moment with you, and I want your perspective. And I rarely go for outside perspective. It's just not needed. But this piece of me has been persisting for so long. I'm like, I want someone else's take if this feels off. That when I see other people's neuroses and deep shadow aspects and them being in such resistance, and sometimes these people are aware and in a healthy way have been told in safe space, like, hey, I'm noticing these unhealthy or dysregulated behaviors, and they're still choosing to not lean in. They're still choosing to not do the work around it. My system gets pretty feisty sometimes, and I have very low tolerance for people who will not fucking take responsibility and put in the work. And I asked my friend, I said, what does that feel like to you when I tell you that? Does it feel like I'm a judgy bitch? Does it feel,
I was going to say, what does it present like,
sometimes I do. It depends on the case, but sometimes I get really, really frustrated because damage is done from people who will not take responsibility.
Like, about it, so do something about it.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, so what did your friend say?
She really sat with it, and she's a very trusted friend, and we're very honest with each other. And she's just like, honestly, Alyson, you have a very high level of mastery of discernment. And because the other last little quick piece is I said, or do you think that this is just the medicine system I'm meant to hold space for? It's just like, I'm not going to be one of those healers and people that's going to let shit slide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's this energetic medicinal space that I'm to hold. Which is it? Judgy bitch or highly masterful discerner who's supposed to hold that space? And we landed on highly masterful discerner.
Great.
And I'm glad this story surfaced because I also think it exemplifies, even though I have gained a high level of mastery in a lot of categories in life, I still check myself and I still ask myself these questions. And if something's persisting, I'm not afraid to go to another shaman or Luke, my husband, or my sister Mariah, and ask like, hey, is there something a little blind spotty or quivery going on? And I think no matter how many years of being a healer, mystic, having integrity and doing those integrity checks, it's number one on the list.
It's almost like a microcosm of exactly, or macro, I don't know, one of those of exactly what you've been talking about. Like if somebody knows there's something, like you're constantly doing that work.
Yes. And it's like, dude, if I can so exhaustively do this and keep myself in check, like, come on, get on board, get on the train here. Because the longer these people are in these distorted internal systems, it's really dangerous, and we can't afford anymore. There's so much shadow extraction and so many shifts going on in the planet, for these, especially these last few years. And it is tough, especially when I see people in the spiritual community. We're so blessed here in Austin to have so many incredible people. And I see a lot of dysfunction in the space. And that's where I get really fired up is when it's a leader or a teacher who's refusing to address some aspects.
Yeah.
Super dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean, I've noticed it just, and it's just, I just feel whatever the opposite of magnetized toward it is, repelled, that's not for me, but I'm not in that healing space like you are. So yeah, it's it's very interesting too.
Yeah, it is. And the last thing I'll say about it.
And one more.
Yeah, it's a very alive conversation we're having. It's like I also embrace the humanness in all of us too, and that is vital as well.
Sure.
It's a lot to hold, and it's a lot to be consciously aware of. But it's with my seer gift, I can see a lot, obviously. And so yes, there can be things that are needing to come up and shadow behaviors that are needing to present. And sometimes the only way they know how to present is in a human dynamic or human interpersonal relationship. But it's like, how much then are you still shoving it to the side, or how much are you leaning in and willing to look at those human aspects and make the necessary tweaks? There's a lot that one has to hold and tune into.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to shift gears for a second.
Great.
I want to ask you about the words you used about where you are right now, which you said intriguing void. What a great set of words to describe something. And like, what is an intriguing void in life? Is it just those spaces between where we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm, living my purpose, or I have some sort of something going on, and, that space between those, or like, what is it?
Beautiful question. The intriguing void.
The intriguing void.
Let us voyage into the space. She's dark and black and has some midnight royal blues swirling. And yeah, it's really, really dark. Every once in a while, there might be one flicker of a star, but then it diminishes and you're just in total darkness. That's the vision I'm getting. But how it feels is it can be any amounts of infinite types of things. One example, I was living in New York City for a very long time, about 15 years. And after my awakening, after devoting to facing myself and healing, then my soul and soul calling had room to express and inform me why I was really here. My seer gift got turned back on. I was seeing visions of how my true soul's calling was supposed to express and be of service in the world. And that was to be really out there, be a very front-facing public figure type shaman, being in the media and doing events, right? So right out of the gate, I start working with these big brands and hotels in New York City. And for many years, I was out there in a big way. And honestly, I was living on my own, trying to find my way, living in the concrete jungle, and making my living through these events and being in the media as a shaman. And I got an instruction one day to cease all events and giving all talks. So those were the two primary ways I was making a living by myself, living in the world's most expensive city. And I'm like, okay, so this is what I've been doing since I had my spiritual awakening. This is how I make all of my income. And you're very clearly telling me and demanding, it's an instruction from the divine, that I cease it all. So I was like, okay.
Do you hear a voice?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I am clairaudient. The day I had my divine intervention, my clairaudient gift turned on, and it was through the words that I heard that led me to having that veil lifting.
Okay.
So yes, I'm very clairaudient and very clairvoyant. So yes, I do hear the instructions.
I have some clairsentient and I don't know what it's called, but a smell.
Oh, I forget what
there's a word I've looked, clairolfactory or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, continue your
No,
story.
that's
it's
great.
Weird.
I would imagine. I would love to.
When it happens, this is, my scale is low.
Well, I mean, if you're aware that it's happening, do you smell tobacco randomly, or what do you?
Sometimes it just happens. I've smelled my father before he's passed, and just it'll just happen randomly.
Yeah. I get tobacco in some environments, and tobacco's not happening, but I'll be like, oh, something's happening here. So yeah, the smell one's interesting.
Well, I would think tobacco is such a part of so many ceremonies that maybe it's something coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
so
New York.
yeah, I am told to stop everything.
To stop. You hear a voice. What does the voice sound like? Is it
It sounds just clear as day, like how you and I are speaking, but it's inward.
Female voice, a male?
No, it's not. It's just it's an all-knowing voice from the inside.
Okay.
Yes, that's the best way I can describe it. And so I said, okay, then let's make a deal. I'll say yes to this instruction, but you show me how am I going to survive,
Yeah.
And so these are those interesting precipice points where I don't want to label them as tests, but oftentimes they're rites of passage or tests or initiations, especially when you say yes to the shamanic path or the hero's journey. These waves of clear awareness will come in, and then it's like, what are you going to do with them?
That's so funny. I was going to ask you, do you believe in tests and those kind of things?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It strengthens your muscle of trusting yourself. It strengthens your inner grid of divine navigation and calibration. It strengthens your relation with the unseen realms. And the unseen realms is obviously very aware of, are you quivering or are you steadfast? Like, I have gained another area I've gained mastery is I know how to hold a fucking line. If I am told what to do by God, no matter what the triggering medicine that what I'm doing might send out, no matter the naysayers, no matter the haters, no matter the trolls, no matter the resistance, if I'm told by God to do something, I will hold that line until God tells me stamp of approval, mission complete, duty done. So yeah, I said yes. And I got of course, then I get all these offers, right? A talk here and we'll pay you this, we'll fly you here, this event partnership with this hotel. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
You're so lucky you heard it clearly then. Because what if it had been a little fuzzy?
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
Like that's a good thing, you know?
it is.
What a blessing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it is. But yeah, of course, that's when the offers roll in.
Yeah. And then that's where I had to hold that line deeper. And that's when I went into a void. And my point in telling this is to give an example story of a specific voided space that for me lasted almost 3 years. So I was told to cease that stuff. And I did, and I cleared my calendar. I said no to, all the offers. And I don't remember how.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then what happened was after a few months, I think, a new download came in that I was supposed to stay more in the shamanic cave and stay more inward, continue doing all my deep shadow work, all the things I was doing for continuing healing, and help other healers get out in the world more. And so I got the download of the idea of shamanic PR. I had graduated, I had studied, PR and got a degree in advertising from college.
You have lived like 18 lives.
I know.
Like every time you say something new, I'm like, when did she fit that in? I don't know.
I mean, I am 44, but I have freaking done a lot.
You look amazing.
Wow. Well, likewise. I know. I want to get your course about in 1 hour, look younger, feel younger. I'm like, sign me up. Can you hook a girl up? But yeah, so I know how to do those things, and I had organically been getting so much PR, and I had connections, and I was living in New York City. So I started taking clients and students, and I helped get them PR and publicity and helped get more healers out into the world. And so this went on, and I didn't know how long it would last. Now, the other thing that's interesting is a lot of my friends and colleagues are in similar spaces where they're spiritual teachers or healers who are also in the media and they're public figures. And I'm watching them get book deal number 4 or get, this TV series. And I'm just like, so there were continuous trusts over the 2.5 years of just like, oh gosh, the part of the ego or part of my system being like, am I just going to be forgotten? Do I need to get back out there? But I trusted and I held that voided space. And to wrap the story and to wrap this particular void, it was like 2 3/4 years. I remember it was like in September, October of a year where, I kid you not, this was a clairsentience directive. I could feel the energetic system of the instruction telling me to not be outward facing. I literally felt that entire energetic system go to my back side. I felt the whole system that I had been living in for 2 3/4 years go behind me. And I literally felt that energetic system push on my back. I felt it pushing me forward. And I remember to the exact moment I was sitting in my place in Brooklyn, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have done it. I think I held the voided space in the line for that instruction. It's complete. And I knew. And so only then did I start to, slowly come out of the cave and get front facing again. But, that's the other thing. You never know when you're given these instructions and entering into different textures and types of voids. You don't know how long the void will last. So this one that I'm sitting in right now, that's a very unique and intriguing one. I don't think it's going to be a long one. I do feel actually that starting in spring, some additional clarity is going to start to present, but while it's a briefer one, it's a very deep voided space for me because these deep places are leaving.
Do you ever look back at that space and that time and now you can see why it happened? Do you feel like, you have perspective, hindsight?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, let me see with that one, that one was a lot about getting into deepest and healthy embodiment as a healer and deepest trust in myself. It was just going to, the darkest shadow aspects and just not avoiding or skipping past any of those like vital pieces on the healer and being a leader in the healing space path. So I'm so grateful that I didn't let my ego override things, that I didn't get impatient. And what's interesting is some of those other colleagues that at the time, were still out there, even though I took those nearly 3 years off, I didn't lose any ground, if that makes sense. It was just really interesting. I wasn't forgotten when I did come back out. Some people said later, they were like, I didn't know what was going on with you. Like, I didn't even know what to say to you, just like vanished. And you were kind of the blueprint. And I looked to you to know how to handle my spiritual public figure career. And then when you went away, it was like, I had to figure shit out. I've literally had people, very well-known spiritual teachers tell me that. But yeah, I'm so glad that I went to the deepest parts of myself and got into such deep trust.
Dude, that's for real ego, like
annihilation. Yeah.
Ego, that's for real.
Yeah.
Because it is so tempting. And I'm guessing that was maybe even before a lot of social media stuff.
Yeah.
So like that egoic temptation is just so, it just lures you, right? Like, I mean, it's a biggie.
It is. It's enticing. And again,
enticing.
I can see the radio hosting. You're a very good interview. It's like, I feel
Thank you.
We're in a really,
I listen. That's all it is.
Well, yeah, take note for any other podcast hosts out there. Actually listen, to the guest.
Imagine
we'll guide you. But I feel like we are in a really powerful time right now of redefining success. And I'm so relieved on the deepest soul levels that we're here.
Oh my God, tell me what it is, please.
Well,
I can't wait.
It's a shifting, there's a lot of people resisting it, and I get it, and I get why. And I'm not saying I never encounter resistances either, but it's like we've just gotten so conditioned in this age of social media of defining success by like the views and the likes, numbers.
It's numbers.
Yes.
That's so funny. I was driving this morning home from my workout and I was like, how much of my life am I dependent on, like my happiness is dependent on numbers. And I was like, fuck, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah. Even with the podcast, like how many downloads?
But then I do want that. It's like,
yes. Well, it's healthy to look at it all, but just remember and to return to, doing a brief meditation and let's say, for example, it's, for people listening, maybe you have a podcast and it's like, really going deep and asking yourself, what is the true definition of success for you with your podcast? Like, what type of impact are you wanting to make and how are you wanting to be of service? And it's like, so when those old paradigm models of the old definitions of success present themselves of like, you hear somebody else has X amount of downloads and for some reason they seem so much farther ahead than you, but it's like, whoa. That's the precise moment where you have to get in check and you're like, am I holding my integrity line? Am I fulfilling the foundational intention of what I said would be success for my show? And as long as you're holding that energetic container, that's what's most important. The last little thing I'll say, I was thinking of posting. I have a graphic made, but I just didn't have the energy to try to write the copy for it today.
Sometimes that happens.
I'm just like, this one's too deep. But the the graphic says be source, not result. And I'll say it again, be source, not result.
Yeah.
And that knowing that you are tuning into source and living by the directives of your soul and source, that's all the result any human could ever need or desire or want for. And if you're being source and not worried about what Sam and Sue are doing and not getting caught up in like these old definitions of success, the most important thing is, are you holding that line with source?
I love that. This is funny. So, I send those little intake questions when you book the podcast.
The ones I ignored.
You did. I think something happened and you had written them or something, and part of it got cut off or something happened, because the only answer I got was, it was like, what do you consider your purpose in life, or something like that is the first one. And all you wrote was being in. And that was it. Like nothing else was the answer. And so when I went over that this morning, I looked back at it and I wrote being in. And then a part of me just went, yeah, you know what? Being in. She's just in. And I was like, that's perfect. So what you just said cracked me up, because I was like, oh my God, we're just being in.
Being in. Being in.
Be source.
Yes.
And not results. Are you ready to up-level your pleasure practice? I have in mind, and the main things that have helped me are the tools that I've found from Wands. Wands creates luxurious products that encourage us all to honor our body, celebrate our sexuality, and live in pleasure, with more pleasure all the time. One of my favorites, if you listen to this show, then you probably already know, is the Cervix Wand. Wands has trademarked their #1 best-selling glass pleasure wand. It's for vaginal and anal de-armoring, and it's designed for cervical and G-spot stimulation. And let me tell you, it's incredible. It's helped thousands of women become more connected to their bodies and their pleasure, and supports them to heal pelvic pain through self-yoni massage, and helps awaken more pleasure. Just recently, I've ordered the Venus wand, another trademarked wand from Wands, and it's designed to activate and awaken the G-spot and more. Also, don't miss one of their new offerings, which are free bleed blankets that can be used as waterproof intimacy blankets. They have a beautiful selection now available. But take a look around at wands.com, that's WAANDS, because they have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, crystal pleasure wands in amethyst, black obsidian, anything that your heart desires, and so much more. Check them out at wands.com, that's WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off, or simply enter my code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's WAANDS, wands.com. Y'all, I have started using higher dose products, and I am such a fan. You know, I don't put anything on this podcast that I am not 100% completely behind. And I have a special discount code for you for all higher dose products. I'm so excited. If you don't know, Higher Dose is a wellness company. They have wellness tech products, they have tools, they have supplements, and they have body care. They have so many things that are hot right now too, that are really biohacking and up-leveling our lives at home, which is really cool. They have an infrared sauna blanket. They have an infrared PEMF mat that I'm so excited to be sharing about soon. One of my favorites though is the red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, it activates glowing skin, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft. It's not like one of the hard plastic ones, so you can kind of move it around on your body, which I've been doing, and I am seeing amazing results. I am absolutely addicted to it. I use it every single night, and I'm using it in conjunction with one of their other products, the Glow Serum. And I'm very picky about what I put on my skin, and I am loving the Glow Serum. It's specially formulated to plump and hydrate and stimulate radiant skin, which that's the goal. They have a ton of other products too, magnesium ingestibles, magnesium body care, which has a healing oil and a serotonin soap that you can use in your bath, which I've been using too. It boosts your mood, enhances your skin, and deepens your detox, gets you calmed down. Anyway, I'm a fan, so I'm so excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there, or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 and you'll get 15% off. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, basically you name it. And there's a reason why. So go check it out. It's at higherdose.com and enter my code MAGIC15 for 15% off. That's that letting go. That's that just surrendering fully, to the moment and living present, which is the goal, right?
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Yeah.
What's the goal? That's it, right? Just be source.
Yeah. The goal, in my humble opinion, is yes, to be living in accordance to divine will and your soul's calling.
Yes.
Period.
Speaking of that, let's talk some animals.
Great.
Can we talk animals? I'm excited because I've really enjoyed this book. And I was very pleased to see ladybugs in here.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Are they a favorite?
Well, they haven't been, but when I started recording my course, that day that I lost all the content that we were talking about, in that light right there was something inside of it. And I was like, what is that? And there was a ladybug inside of it.
Cool.
And I was like, wow, this is a sign that I'm on the right track, right? Ladybugs are good luck. Then I lost everything. And I was like, what the fuck? So literally days go by and I'm like, I got to re-record everything. So I come back, I sit down to re-record that. Ladybug is still in the light.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, all right, fine. So it was one of the first ones that I looked up, but I have just played with it. And now I have your absolutely gorgeous deck, which I'm so excited about. 75 animals to awaken your personal magic. And so what a beautiful thing you have put in the world.
Thank you.
My gosh, look at these. And I have my big collection of decks back there. So I'm excited to have yours in there. So thank you.
Seeing if I recognize, I have the Rose, that's the Rose Oracle deck. Is that one?
That is Rebecca Campbell,
Yes.
Work Your Light. Yeah.
Oh, I have
a few.
her
I have a
Rose
few.
one.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Is
she
it
was on
good?
Ceremony Circle. Yeah. She's
Man.
lovely.
That's right. I saw that on. Oh yeah, she's a badass. Yeah, I know. I've got some different ones, and then they're scattered around too.
Cool.
I've got one of my favorites downstairs. I'll show you too.
Nice.
Let's see. Oh, I drew a rabbit.
Rabbit. What's the year of the
Fertility.
rabbit?
Oh,
And
it
fertility.
is.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this deck it's
really?
It's full on. Yeah.
I love to when it says something right on it. These are cool because I have a deck downstairs, the one that I'll show you, which is Divine Abundance, and I like that they give you just a little something.
Yeah. And then if you want to go deeper, go within or go into the information book. But yeah, I also love just a 2 or 3 word phrase of what's happening here.
Oh, wow. So you chose 75 animals out of the 100 that are in your book.
Correct. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So it's a great companion to have animal powered book, which is a more full comprehensive reference guidebook with 100 animals, deeper messages, much more information, stories from other shamans and spiritual teachers from around the world. And then the deck is just, more of that ping, and you can pull the card. And if you want to go deeper, go to the book kind of thing.
You want to pull a card?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh,
How do you like to do these? How do you like to pull a card? Do you like to shuffle them? I'll let you shuffle.
It's your deck. So I'm going to let you get her ready because they're shiny material. A lot of them are probably stuck together. So once we're done, you might want to really make sure all the 75 cards are not stuck together. But the way I do when I do a personal card reading for myself is I'll hold the deck, I'll knock 3 times to clear any energy. And then I'll just start to hand shuffle. And usually one will fly out of the deck or jut out really tall. Or before I start to shuffle, I think if I have an intention, am I just calling the animal in who most wants to speak to me today? Or do I have a specific question? And then once I have the intention set, then I'll start to shuffle and see. But I liked the way you were going to do it with me, where you're just fanning them out in front. I don't think I've done, I think you might be the first person that's handed me my own deck and said, pick a card.
Cool.
Let's see. I'm going to tune in here.
Let's tune in. You got. Oh, you went underneath it.
I did a little surprise move.
Curious what this one was.
Kangaroo. Eliminate distraction. Let me see.
That is my high school mascot. I'm a big fan of kangaroos.
Really?
Yes.
I've never known of a high school having a kangaroo. That's so
Colleen
random.
Kangaroos. I know, the roos.
Where is that at?
It's Colleen. It's about an hour away.
Oh, in Texas? Colleen kangaroos. That's funny.
You do have some kangaroo energy when you sit with me, so there's no question.
Yeah. I love the artwork for this one too. It's one of my favorites.
All the artwork is stunning. William Santiago.
Yeah.
He nailed Willian.
Yes.
Willian.
Yes. The other interesting thing with Willian is he passed away right upon completing the animals for this project. He transitioned to the other realms. It's a whole
old
wild
was
story. He was
he?
only 30. Yeah.
Oh
and he
my
lived in
God.
Brazil and didn't speak English. So I don't know the exact cause of his death, but yeah.
Did he get to see the book published?
He did not in the final completion. No, he did not get to see the final product. It's really it's just like another testament to the potent shamanic medicine that's infused in this book. The fact that the artist was like, okay, I've done these animals and this is the last work I'm doing, and transitioned. It's really wild.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but as it goes.
Yeah, I feel his presence.
What a
and
beautiful creation. I'm
such
sure.
a soul contract he and I had to come together to birth this, I
Yeah.
knew he was the artist. I'm going to tune in and see why Kangaroo came in for me. Let's see. Kangaroo, eliminate distraction.
You have all these memorized, I bet, huh?
I do. And what's funny is one time I was at a gathering, and there were some of the parents at the gathering had some kids there, their kids there. And there were 3 boys ranging from like 10 to 13, I think. And one of the parents said my animal power deck was at this house. And one of the parents said, this is the author. Cause they were looking at it and they're like, this is the lady, this is her, this is her deck. And what was so funny is one of the boys, I don't know if he was consciously trying to test me, or like if his mind couldn't fathom that I was actually the author, or if that was not a play at all. But he started to pull the deck out and he was like, what's the message for the kangaroo? What's the message for the jellyfish? What's the message for the bear? And he was like testing me, and I was like, eliminate distraction, trust, surrender, go with these. Like I was just, and then his
Pop
eyes.
quiz, Alyson.
Yeah, it ended up being an animal power card deck pop quiz. It was hilarious. But we ended up having the best time with it. But what's funny with Kangaroo is just this morning before I was leaving to come here to do this, Luke came into the bathroom or the closet, and I was like, honey, I'm leaving in a couple minutes. He's like, no. He's like, I prefer it when you just watch your love reality shows on Netflix and get on your little stepper machine in the living room. I like seeing you sit here every day. I was like, nah. I was like, baby's wheeling and dealing right now, because this week has just been really busy for some reason. I was like, nah, tomorrow I'm going to be gone too. And he's like, no, honey. He's like, I like it when we just are working on making a baby and you watch your Netflix shows. So it's just funny because when I tuned in, I literally was taken to that moment where he's just like, it's a joking thing.
Around.
Yeah, all this hopping around, all this distraction. He's like, let's just stay here, have you get pregnant, and watch your love reality shows. It was very funny.
Well, it's funny. It's like the forward motion, but also a kangaroo. You automatically think
Little
of that,
Joey, the
Yes.
baby in a pouch.
Yes,
Cool.
exactly.
That's cute.
It is. That's beautiful.
Pregnancy medicine. Thank you, Kangaroo. I always love to honor them for showing up. The animal allies are incredible.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this because I've always paid attention to it. Like I don't know though. I'm the type that is constantly believing that I'm being shown something. So I'm like, okay, what's this ladybug in the light showing me? Or just whatever it is.
I mean, Ladybug in the Light, that sounds like a book title or some poem. I mean,
that'll be my memoir when I go big.
Seriously, Ladybug in the Light? That's freaking rad. That's pretty.
I love it. You're good with words. You like words, huh?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I can tell. Intriguing void. I mean, that's not something everybody says. So, speaking of words, there's I liked your definition of shaman because like when we sat down, I was like, how do you want to be introduced? And you're like, some people are not as into the word shaman, and I think it can have some negative connotations, right? And so, or not necessarily negative, just
confusion, misunderstanding.
There you go. And I liked what you wrote in here. And apparently I wrote next to it. It's been a while since I read this. I'm a shaman.
Wait, this is a moment. We're not just going to shuffle on quick past this.
I liked your definition a lot. So apparently I was like, I'm a shaman.
This is huge. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go deeper. Continue.
So you said the purpose of shamanic work is to raise consciousness and love, activate the true divine power of all that is, and be a supportive guide in alleviating suffering. And I was like, that's my mission. My mission is to use my voice to help other people strengthen theirs, to find their true calling, to transform into their best selves, that constant next best version. And I was like, yeah. And then over here, I have it pointing down to another section. It's important to note that shamanism is a calling, a sacred mission, a gift encoded in one's soul. When your calling activates, there's absolutely no mistaking it. And it becomes your sacred duty to open up to, unify, and embody your calling fully. So anyway, walking the path unites you with your soul, and you continue on. And so anyway, I was just like, huh. And it's just so funny that I wrote that. And I was like, oh, I want to maybe mention that I really liked her definition, and it really resonated with me. So, you can be shaman in a different sort of version.
Yes, I'm
I'm a podcast shaman.
This is
voice really.
It's really big though, and this is an actual powerful moment that we're sitting in, because
Great.
It feeds into a lot. So I'm going to try to tune in to be concise, but
Okay.
stand by, it's coming in.
Great.
It's taking me to so much. It's taking me to the fact that one of my big assignments was being an educator in the shamanic space and helping to return people to what the foundational truth and true roots of shamanism are, and how wild that journey has been for me, and how much I resisted being an educator, and how much I resisted the instruction to be an educator. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's challenging enough to be a public figure shaman and facilitate events and shamanic journeys for thousands of people. And now on top of that piece, you want me to be an educator in this space? Like that's a whole other thing. So it brings in that piece for me, and how I have held that line very courageously. And it also took me to last week, or just a few days ago, I had an incredible high priest, a Dogon high priest named Naba, on Ceremony Circle. It hasn't aired yet, but that conversation between he and I was so powerful, not just for me personally, but for the entire collective, truly across all time and space, because the Naba family lineage and the Dogon lineage hail from West Africa. And if you can kind of get to an origin shamanic lineage, it would be them.
Wow.
And he and I had this whole conversation around this phrase origin seed. And there's a whole big story behind that. But I had been hearing this whisper being given to me about origin seed, origin seed. I had another man on my show named Ashel Seasons. When he was getting to the closing ceremony circle practice, he's a master musician. He got out his ngoni, this West African instrument. He's like, what type of song do you want me to sing? I tuned in and I said, origin seed, something about origin seed, Africa and origin seed. And he's like, all right, bet. Or he didn't say bet, I just said that, but he's like, got you. And he sang this beautiful song about origin seed. Fast forward, this is to exemplify the weavings and just like the truth of shamanism in one way. Fast forward, I like one of Ashel's posts, and I commented, this is beautiful. And he says, he would be great for your podcast. And it was Naba. I said, great, help me align it. So he did. And then I'm sitting with Naba a few days ago, and I believe it was him in our conversation. Naba, I think he was the one that said the word origin seed. And I was like, hold up. I'm like, I said this to Ashel. He sang a song about it. And then Ashel's the one that brought us together. And I'm starting to see now the deeper understandings of why I was being told origin seed. It's because of us, of this moment right here, of you and I needing to come together and bring our authentic truths together and energetics together to hold the space and transmit once again what the truth of shamanism really is. And it's this origin seed. And every human being has this origin seed, this truth of shamanic ways within them. Because before shamanism had a title, before it was called shamanism and shaman, it's just humans living on earth and knowing how to connect with the divine. That's what shamanism is. It's walking with feet
that's
in
what
both
I loved about
worlds.
this.
Yes. It's walking with your feet in both worlds. It's knowing how to connect with honor and communicate with the planet we inhabit, Great Mother Earth. And it's knowing how to communicate with honor and connect with honor to the unseen realms, to the divine, to spirit. And every living being in this world and the unseen worlds has a birthright to know how to connect with earth and to know how to connect with the divine. We all have this origin seed, and it's all of our birthrights. And so that's why it felt so meaningful to me that it allowed you, that the truth of these teachings in this book took you to the truth inside of you, to have, for you on a human and soul level, to have the recognition of, I too am shaman. Mm-hmm. That's powerful.
It really is.
So
it surprised me too. Total surprise. But I hope everybody listening to that can be like, oh, I have this seed.
Yes.
Within.
Yes. And then the last thing that, because it's super important to clarify, we all have the origin seed. We all have the shamanic ways inside of us. It's encoded in all of our blood. And then it's up to us, right? Does that origin seed open up to a level where, like me, I've devoted my life to being a shaman. I've devoted my life to the shamanic path, the calls of the divine, the calls of Great Mother Earth. There's also other ways where you allow your origin seed to open and you allow it to inform and guide you to shamanic ceremonies or having a healing session done, or you're supposed to sit and hear medicine songs from a certain shamanic lineage, which they are global. So there's that path too. There's the path of embodying being a shaman and devoting your life to it. And then there's the shamanic way of, maybe that's not your true calling to go all in like that, but you will allow your soul to lead you into shamanic practices and rituals and ways. The last little important piece that is vital to say, because of all the confusion around what shamanism is and what shamans are, is while it's all of our birthright, 100% clear fact through and through, and High Priest Naba explicitly says in my podcast that the origin seed practices that the Naba lineage and the Dogon lineage carry and share, those original meditation practices, the original shamanic rituals from that location on earth and from their line, they had to hold them close to them for 2,500 years for various reasons. But they are now out, and they have been out for a number of years, sharing them, especially with the West. And they themselves know and say, these are not our practices, they are humanity's practices. Yet there are some shamanic traditions from various cultures where, certain songs and prayers and practices might be shared in a ceremonial setting, but you are not to share them yourself outside of the ceremony. So that's where there is a piece that people have to be very mindful of, that while it's all of our birthright, if you sit in a certain ceremony with a Celtic shaman or a Taoist shaman, and within that ceremony, the elder or the shaman facilitating says, the medicine song that was just shared, it's meant to be held here in this container only. It's vital that you honor that and not, go on carrying that song. But if there is a certain practice or ritual that really speaks to you, all that's needed is you go to the elder and teacher and ask, say, that prayer really moved me. Do I have permission to carry that prayer forward for my personal life? Or I'm a leader in the space. Do I have permission to carry this prayer forward in the ceremony ceremonies that I facilitate. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be this big, confusing situation. It's just about honor and communication.
And respect. Respecting the situation.
Reverence.
Because, that's a funny line a little bit too when I think about it, because every moment is sacred. So I don't know if you're sitting here right now and you haven't asked permission about a certain prayer, but you know it and you're like, this is called for me right now. I don't know.
There's a lot of nuances.
Nuances. Exactly. So that's super interesting. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I'm always intrigued if these pieces, each interview I do, I'm now in a way of wanting to sit back and seeing if the host brings it forward, and then I'll share. And you did. You brought it forward, and I shared. So
do I get like a special gold star for that?
They'll give you an extra big hug.
Perfect. That's all I need. Good. Well, we are coming up to the end. So is there anything that we missed that was really on your heart today, or anything that you needed to go a little deeper on, that, or something that just is coming through right now into this space?
Yeah, the word integrity just came in, and it doesn't need to be a long diatribe, but if the spiritual path, if the shamanic path is calling you, and whether you're newer or midway on the infinite path, or, wherever you're at on it, if you're feeling called deeper, just remember, above all else, in terms of who you sit with for ritual and ceremony, who you allow to facilitate, who you want to be taught by, integrity is number one. Far and above and beyond where they were born, how old they are, their race, their gender. What's most important is, does this teacher have integrity? When you really tune in, do they feel that they hold that energetic? I think, some people get easily swayed by their cousin worked with this person, or, there's this confusion that, I never want to work with a white shaman. Why? Maybe that white shaman has the purest integrity line for the ritual that you're wanting to learn from. So I just want to share that before you get into all these pieces of separation and identity around, gender and age and all of that stuff, what's most important and vital to tune into is, does it feel that this teacher carries integrity?
I love that. And, you are like exemplifying that, especially taking that time away and annihilating your ego. That's where we can fall prey, and maybe you can sense that someone's out of their integrity, and it's important to pay attention to those messages, because I know that in the times that I haven't, I've been like, I knew.
It kicks you in the ass.
Yeah. And so just allowing yourself to sit with that and see. I love that you used an example for the positive, like, I don't want to work with a white shaman, but maybe that person is really in their integrity and really in their alignment.
Yeah, it's important to break down those stories that some people tell themselves, and the tiny little boxes, because shamanism lives far beyond any sort of box.
I like that. Good. I like that. That's really nice. And that's the overarching impression I got when I read the intro to your book and delved more into you. That was exactly it. It was that shamanism is more universal and doesn't only pick, people in Peru or so,
There's traditions globally.
Yes,
like I said,
yes.
there's Celtic shamans, and and
American shamans right here.
Yes,
so
right here,
yeah.
that are very powerful. And I do want to honor, all the shamans that came before me that have held these ancient keys and codes so courageously for so many thousands of years. And maybe in a past life, I was one of them, but, and if so, I thank myself. But, I thank all the previous medicine people who have so diligently and bravely carried forth these ways, because we need to work to make sure they are not lost.
Yeah, for sure. It's part of our whole human lineage. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you were here today.
Likewise.
Yeah. And I encourage everyone to pick up your beautiful deck for sure and your book, Animal Power. I've enjoyed, I just keep it with my books in the morning, and every morning I've just been kind of flipping it open and enjoying what I see. Now I've flipped open to Salamander. So that's some rites of passage and inner fire.
I mean, we just discussed you remembering that you're a shaman, so
Yes.
that's a big rite of passage.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I read
Those
Rite
are
of
some
Passage.
fiery realizations.
I love it. So thank you so much. And everyone can follow you at I am Alyson Charles, Alyson Charles, and AlysonCharles.com. Yes? Or Ceremony Circle.
And Ceremony Circle podcast. That's where you
Yeah.
can find me best.
Check out Ceremony Circle, and I'll have links to everything in the show notes. Thank you, Alyson Charles / Alyson Charles Storey.
Yes, I'm a
Easy
married
to
lady
that.
now.
That's right. How long have you been married?
We have just been over a year. We did an Elvis Vegas spontaneous wedding.
How
It was
fun.
just the two of us. The photographer was our witness. It was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That sounds like a
Perfect
blast.
note to end on.
It is. It is. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And as I always say, I just am going to reiterate it again. If you listen to this show, you know what I'm about to say. But if someone popped in your head while you were listening to this, I invite you to share this show with them, because those conversations can really open us up in ways that we don't expect. And sometimes it just ripples out and leads to things that we never saw coming. And that is so incredible about what can happen with these powerful conversations like today's with Alyson's, which just flew by for me. So I hope it did for you too. Be sure to follow her. And if you haven't subscribed for my newsletter yet, please do. It's at amyedwards.com. And there's news in there too about the courses and everything else that I have going on, and all the shows and all the epic guests like Alyson today. So thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. Till next time. This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.